When I was 28, I was teaching in my ancestral homeland of India. My adopted city of New Delhi had been the site of numerous bomb blasts fueled by tension between Hindus and Muslims. Over the course of 1 month, there were 5 deadly attacks. Our school was under lockdown, and I was desperate for guidance on how to support my students during this tumultuous time. After a long school day, I attended a talk honoring the anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's birth. The talk was held at the site of his martyrdom, and it lauded his commitment to nonviolent societal transformation. That evening changed my life. The speaker was the Vietnamese renowned global leader, Thich Nhat Hanh, who had been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And in a profound weaving of birth and death, he challenged us all to be Gandhi's continuation. And he introduced a term that's foundational to creating a beloved community: interbeing. Interbeing means to interdependently coexist. Interbeing honors the interdependence of every person to all other persons and aspects of our planet. We are all connected to each other, and our beloved community extends to our relationship with this planet. In a beautiful illustration of interbeing, Thich Nhat Hanh writes that if you were a poet, you would see clearly that there is a cloud floating in this sheet of paper. Without the cloud, there would be no rain. Without the rain, there would be no trees. And without the trees, there would be no paper. The cloud is essential for the paper to exist. He goes on to write that if you look deeply enough, you can even see the logger who cut down the tree and the logger's ancestors as well in that sheet of paper. Interbeing helps us see that we are all interconnected in a complex web, knowing that we are in each other. The nonviolence Gandhi and MLK practiced is born from interbeing. Dr. King wrote, "In a real sense, all life is interrelated. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. This is the interrelated structure of reality." In the SEL world, we talk about needing to connect, but the truth is we are already connected. We just don't often recognize this. If we could shift our sense of self from a strongly individuated, separate identity to a connected, collective identity, then we will view our world, our nation, and the work we do in schools with fresh eyes. This vision is what transformative SEL is all about, but it requires a major paradigm shift. This shift means that we attune to the intelligence of interbeing, and we acknowledge that the wounding of historic racism is our collective responsibility. We all must build bridges together so we can, as John A. Powell says, advance a world built on belonging. And we're starting as early as we can with our son. So how do we do this? Audre Lorde reminds us that the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Transformative SEL, centered in justice, grounded in interbeing, will not only dismantle the master's house, but build a new house. That night in Delhi, on the anniversary of Gandhi's birth, at the site of his death, Thich Nhat Hanh led us through an exercise where we looked deeply into our hands to see our ancestors and our descendants. I touched my great-great-grandfather in me. He was a freedom fighter in the Indian independence movement, and he died at the hands of the colonizers. I felt how his struggle continues to live on inside of me, and in the many forms colonization takes today. My father is a bridge engineer, And that night, I decided to follow in his footsteps, but build bridges that create a more compassionate and equitable world rooted in interbeing. I'm inviting all of us here today to be bridge builders. SEL is the how of bridging. We are living the legacy of our ancestors, those who chose to bridge, those who chose to break, and those who had no choice, like my great-great-grandfather and his fellow freedom fighters pictured here. My call to action for all of us is to hold in our hearts a question inspired by the work of one of my dear teachers, Larry Ward. What kind of ancestor am I willing to be? Knowing that in each moment, there's an opportunity to bridge or break. I've learned that to make things come alive, we need to breathe them in. So as we silently ask ourselves this question and hold it in our hearts, let us take one collective breath together. What kind of ancestor am I willing to be? The answers are within us, and they are waiting to be heard.